Welcome to the podcast series, Small Business Survival Conversations. Through our weekly conversations, we hope to provide you with strategies and insights, knowledge and expertise to enlighten you as you work to build and grow your business. Here are your hosts, Anna Steinfest and Dr. Michael Troyer.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our studio where Dr. Michael Troyer and myself will teach you today how to choose accounting services for your small business. Hello, Michael.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone who's joining us, and nice to see you, Anna.
So accounting services and choosing them, that's, sometimes it's very challenging for small business owners.
And rather critical, I think, because I think accountants who can serve small businesses are really, in my mind, quite different from accountants or accounting services that serve large businesses. There's a real difference here.
Yes, but they're very, very much needed.
Yes.
Because, you need that particular service to make sure that you make a better financial decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Because the accountants usually, or bookkeepers, these are two different things. And we'll talk about a little bit later in our podcast, what is the difference between them. They can provide an overall picture of your financial status and kind of improve your decision making and help you with that.
And in the case of most of us running a small business, especially if we were the ones who started it, we don't normally have come into it as an accountant. We've come into it with an idea. We're still learning how to run a business, and accounting is one of the most critical parts. To understand our business, we need people who understand accounting and can teach us. And that's, in fact, one of the guidelines to me for choosing a good accounting service, that teaching part.
Another reason why you really should consider using accounting service is you have to stay on the top of your tax returns. Mm-hmm. Because guess what? If you don't pay your taxes, you may have to close your business.
Yep. The taxes are like mom and dad. You better do what they tell you or you're in trouble.
They save time, and especially not only that, but especially during pandemic, Michael, remember that we had all these grants available or even some loans available. They needed, for some of these grants, you had to provide your tax returns in your financials. Yep. So if you don't have this in order, it will be very challenging for you to obtain some of this funding, extremely crucial, especially during not pandemic, but crisis.
And look at how fast all of this came at us, this pandemic, so that if you didn't have P&L statements for the last couple of quarters, or maybe the last year, balance sheets, then you didn't have the paperwork you needed. Now you were behind in terms of going after the grants, like the payroll protection plan. So you were going to lose time, which you couldn't afford during that period. So yes, you're right. You need to have this all in place ahead of time to be able to adjust to change.
And honestly, I know that you have to spend money on these services, but they can help you avoid overpaying for some other services because they're watching your back. They're telling you, hey, why are you using this business insurance compared to they can provide even alternative business insurance. They've seen some other of their client. They will not mention clients, but they will give you an example. You should be checking into all these little tips they can provide you.
In fact, to me, choosing a good accounting service is like choosing a doctor. I want somebody who's going to work with me. So they're not just taking my blood pressure and my pulse. They're talking to me what they see in those numbers and other things about my health. I want the accountant to talk about the health of my business. So it's more than just numbers. I want them to, in fact, enjoy talking about business and small business so that we can have a conversation. Then I know I'm getting a good accounting service if they like to talk about business. It's not just numbers. And like a doctor, I want to know that they're going to take time to be with me. If they're on a schedule and they're going to quickly hand me my numbers and push me back out the door or drop them off and go on to something else, that's not the kind of doctor I want. It's not the kind of accounting service I want. I want them to be willing to give me some time and tell me what they see that I may not see that I need to know about. So that's a part of the process of choosing a good accounting service.
I love, love, love this analogy, Michael, you just share with our listeners. You're absolutely correct. That is your financial doctor you need to consult with. And I mean, I will ask you a question. Do all businesses need accounting services?
Well, not necessarily. There are different ways to get at it. We know, for example, that there are people who offer bookkeeping services as a consultant style or a business service style that can be cheaper than a larger accounting firm. You can get Quicken, which is a software, or other accounting software programs that can help you do some of the basics that can reduce the cost of hiring a full accounting service. You've mentioned that there are online bookkeeping software.
Yes, we will. Yes, right now there is a new trend we wanted to share with you today. Is after the pandemics, you have all these different platforms, online platforms, who can provide different services, whether Michael just mentioned bookkeeping, because bookkeeping is separate from accounting. The accounting or tax services, I should say. So tax preparation is different than bookkeeping. Bookkeeping, usually people who are entering day-to-day entries and your transactions, where the tax advisors, they see the overall picture, but a lot of times these are incorporated, or like Michael said, they can be only bookkeepers, they can be only tax advisors, or they can be both.
And accounting, often you go to an accounting service, especially one that serves larger businesses, they can be pretty expensive monthly. What you want from them is your numbers for the month, maybe a P&L and a balance sheet. It would be nice if they'd spend some time talking to you, but if they don't, then there's a real question of whether you ought to be paying that kind of money for just getting your numbers. But the bookkeeping, keeping of the ledger, tracking your expenses and your transactions, you can either have a bookkeeper, or you can have somebody even teach you how to do some of that yourself, assuming you have the time. And often with a small business, you may not have the time, but you need to explore your options here. You have to have accounting at some point, because you have to know the trend lines of your business. Are you keeping your cash level the same as it should each month? Is it growing at least? You don't want it to decline. That you got to have cash to run a business. All those things that bookkeeping starts, and the accountants put it together at the end of the month. But don't be afraid to ask and interview and find out some of your choices. And particularly think of that model of a doctor for both sides. That the bookkeeping side, that's taking my temperature, that's checking my pulse and my blood pressure. The accountant is the one who looks at the overall chart and says, in the last 3 months, you've been losing weight. Let's talk about what's going on. Why are you losing weight? Meaning my cash flow has declined. Yeah, I need somebody to advise me what I'm doing wrong here. So those are the two sides, if you will.
And like you said, Michael, because we're not a doctor, you're not a financial accountant. A lot of us are not in the business to be financial competent. I mean, if you're in service, or if you are, let's say, in manufacturing, you don't know some of the changes in the financials. What does it mean to you? But you want an advisor to tell you the truth, telling you, hey, you know what, you should be reviewing some suppliers. And right now, in inflation time, your cost of per unit increase. So you should think about changing your pricing. What is your profit margins? So you need an advisor who understands numbers to advise you.
Such a good point that you make, Anna. Such a good point. Should I pass on my growing expenses to my customer, or should I absorb them within the business? Well, only your accountant can help you understand whether you have room to absorb those costs without going bankrupt, without losing money month by month, or do you have a reserve that allows you to lose money for a few months before you have to pass those costs along? Then the other part that the accountant may not be able to help you with is, if you raise your price, how many customers will you lose by raising your price? That's another talk for another day, but that's another aspect of all of this. But it starts with knowing your numbers, bookkeeping, and then accounting.
Yes.
And you need to work at this. You have to
check some of the platforms also and compare, because I will give you an example right now. There's a 1-800 accountant. For example, this is a online accounting software and platform where I think the starting price is $125 per month, but what it is you can have a free phone consultation. You can have personalized advice from a CPA. And the best part is for 30 days, it's a money back guarantee. So you can try some of these platforms. Again, I'm not singling this because there is a lot in dinero. Every one of them, make sure that you investigate. Every one of them offers something different. That's why I would like you to know what exactly do you need. Write it down. I need advice. I need tax preparation. I need payroll.
Thank you. I'm going to go back.
Check.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's perfect, Michael.
I just want to go back to the analogy with a doctor. If I needed a new doctor because I lost the one I had, I wouldn't flip the phone book open to the physician pages and stick my finger on somebody and say, I'm going to call that person and go have them as my personal doctor. I'd do some research. I'd interview them. I've done that with picking a doctor. Same thing holds for accountants. This is one of the most important services you need in your business. So take a little time to find the right person. And when you go to the accounting services firm, after you've done the bookkeeping, let's say, you still want to do some interviewing. I want a small business accounting service, because if you're a small business, they need to understand you. The big houses don't necessarily do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we hope we gave you some things to think about and to pursue. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You've been listening to the Small Business Survival Conversation podcast. Make sure to like, rate, and review the show. And don't forget to join us next week for another episode. In the meantime, hook up with us on our Facebook group at Small Business Survival Tools and Tips. Till next time, thank you for listening.